Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual space for all the filthy casual takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna, and whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on your preferred audio podcast platform, welcome to today's episode number 117. Today, we got a lot to discuss about my San Francisco 49ers and their week 2 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And well, it was a good game for the 49ers, but it was also a costly one for them. And why was it costly? Well, we'll get into it as we go through chugging along through this episode for them. And before I get into some of the things I'm going to talk about in this episode, I do want to mention for the first 2 weeks of the season, I want to know some of your thoughts about how I'm doing, how I'm approaching my coverage of the 2022 season. I know it's not the episodic podcast that I done last year, and mainly because it's like currently there are a lot of things outside of my life that are happening right now that are just out of my control. It's left me with less time to prepare for like regular episodes, but for this particular purpose, I've been actually being able to sit down and prep actual like notes for a podcast episode like this, but just keep that in mind. And you know, I kind of like the more fast-paced YouTube exclusive episodes, and I know that leaves you the podcast version out of it, but if you want that kind of style of for the audio listeners out there, let me know, and I could put it out there as like a mini-sode for you all too. So let me know your thoughts on that. So I can also give you guys, the audio listeners out there as well, your slice of the pie too. So everybody wins that way. So let me know on that. But of course, if you guys want to listen to anything or watch anything in regards to Very Cold Lasagna, you should know what to do. Or if you don't, that's okay too. YouTube, audio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, Google Podcasts. Follow the show on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So anyway, we got a show to talk about. The 49ers headed into this week 2 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And it was kind of like a early must-win situation with the 49ers, because last week when they faced the Chicago Bears in week 1, it was an ugly game. Very ugly game. And yes, I get it. It was raining. It was like wet and dirty. But even like before that monsoon, before all the heavy rain came down on them, they did not play good. They did not play good in that game. The play calling was bad. They made Trey Lance run. They made Trey Lance run down the middle with a lot of quarterback design runs, power runs, like a lot of times. And the offensive line didn't protect him that well. And there were too many running plays for him. Not just for him, but for the running backs. And the Bears adjusted before the weather started to come down. And they let Justin Fields throw. They barely let Trey Lance throw. And why was that? Why was that? So, meanwhile, for the not the Denver Broncos, because they lost to, of all teams, the Seattle Seahawks, who were projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They lost to Geno Smith. And who did Geno Smith be? Their old quarterback. Seattle's old quarterback, Russell Wilson. So the Niners headed into their home opener on Sunday. And this was an opportunity for them to pounce and expose on an inferior opponent who's, again, in their rebuilding phase, even though they don't want to admit it, and a division rival in the Seattle Seahawks, who are again coming off an upset win over the Denver Broncos on Monday night. And then if they did not beat the Seattle Seahawks in their home opener, they get embarrassed by them by losing to them. They go into the season 0-2. And then you're going to have questions from the local and the national media. And not just from themselves. They're going to have questions about, again, whether or not they should bench the starter, Trey Lance. And I said this in my preview. Like, if they win this game, but Trey Lance has an ugly game, you're still going to have those questions. But, I mean, even if they lose this game, yes, they'll still have those questions. But if Trey Lance has a good game, then I'll be okay with that. I'll be okay with that. But either way, Trey Lance had to do good, look good, and play good in this game against a bad opponent who thinks that they're hot shit against the Seattle Seahawks. And early in this game, they kind of did look good against Seattle, but it was pretty much the same old story. It was pretty much the same old story like it was in Chicago. I mean, it was still raining. I mean, not as bad as it was in Chicago. Obviously, California rain early in September is nothing like Chicago rain, where it was only like a drizzle. It was only a little drizzle in September rain. So you only got to see Trey Lance throw once. So Brandon Ayuk. And then from that point onward, it was Jeff Wilson and Tyrion Davis-Price who were trying to duke it out for the top running back spot, because let's remember, Elijah Mitchell got hurt in that opening game against the Bears, and he's out for 2 months. But fortunately for them, they were at least getting the job done, finding a lot of open running room. On the offensive line, I'll give them a little bit of credit here. They were helping out, finding that open running room. And they couldn't score in the end zone, but, 3-0, still early on. And then the Niners defensive line brought the heat onto Geno Smith. They go 3-and-out. Deebo Samuel got that big run into the 49ers red zone. But then the big injury that took the life out of the stadium. So on 2nd and 8, Kyle Shanahan, their head coach, calls a quarterback power run. So pretty much a run in the middle between the offensive line and the pass rush. And this is the third one, by the way, in the first quarter alone for Trey Lance. And Trey Lance fell body first, or not even body first. He fell backwards, and then 2 linebackers tackled him, and his leg got crushed. It didn't seem that way early on, but goddamn, he got crushed for 4, and it was all for just a measly 4 yards. So initially it looked like, he was just slow to get up. He just needs to, it looked like he just sprained his ankle or something. But I mean, I wasn't able to see it early on. But then, it's bad. It's very bad when the injury cart, the ones used for significant injuries, it comes rolling out, and it takes a long time for Trey to regain his composure. Jimmy G starts warming up. The players are down on one knee, and he gets put on the injury cart. They put a breathing cast on his leg, and he's going back to the locker room. He's ruled out for the rest of the game. It's bad. It's really, really bad. More on Trey Lance later on. So Jimmy G came in. They settled in for a field goal, go up 6-0. The fans were cheering for Jimmy G. They were like, yeah, Jimmy G, he's back. Woo! They welcome him back with open arms. I mean, what else are you going to do in that situation? But honestly, it was just a downer. It was just a downer of a moment. At that time, that first quarter, ugh. It really was. So Jimmy G, at least for the most part, in the second quarter, it seemed like he changed a bit. It seemed like he did whatever offseason work that he did, even though he didn't really practice with the team because you didn't know what was going to happen to him. It looked like he did something. He looked like he was going to do some damage because you thought that they were just going to give up there and there. But no. He actually made some, at least some nice throws. that inspired some confidence. He made a good aggressive throw to Ray McLeod, Ray McLeod, and Ross Dwelly. And Ross Dwelly, the backup tight end, reached for the goal line on a long pass and scored a touchdown. 13-0, 49ers. Nice work. And then on the next series, Geno Smith had a pass tip by Talanoa Hufanga, and the other safety, Deshaun Gibson, intercepted it. Gave the offense another chance. They turned it over on downs, but because they got too aggressive. But the momentum was starting to go on the Niners side. The defense was playing very well. The offense, doing pretty solid. With Jimmy G. I mean, not great, but they're doing its job, I guess. And then this was really weird from Seattle, but I mean, I guess it's kind of a good thing because you just saw how desperate, you just saw how cute they were trying to get when they were down 13. They go on this run with under 5 minutes left to go, and they're near the goal line. Then whoever their offensive coordinator is, Pete Carroll, he tries to get cute on offense. They try for this wildcat run, that gets stuff, and then on 3rd and goal, they try for a Philly special with DJ Dallas. And I don't know if I don't remember if Geno Smith was trying to be the receiver, but DJ Dallas, the running back, he tries to throw it in the end zone, but he easily gets picked off by Charvarius Mooney Ward, and that was just embarrassing. That was just embarrassing to see, man. By the Seahawks, they just got too cute. And then later on, when the Niners had the punt after the 2-minute warning, the special teams got goofed. They goofed themselves. Tyler Lockett got bumped by one of his teammates, and they caused a fumble. And that wasn't even before they didn't even get to catch the punt return. They just bumped into each other. So the Niners go up 20-0, going to halftime. Kyle Juszczyk scores a touchdown, and you think that they're gonna go on a tear. You think that this first half aggression is going to light a fire in the 49ers in light of Trey Lance's injury. But not really. I mean, the defense is still performing lights out. Nick Bosa got 2 sacks in the 3rd quarter. The offense for the Seahawks getting shut down. The only reason why it ended up being 27-7 at the end of the game was because the Seahawks blocked the field goal when the Niners couldn't score in the end zone on 3rd down, because Seattle blocked the field goal and they returned it for a touchdown, and that was their only point of the game. They couldn't take advantage of that blocked field goal. So, yeah, it was 27-7. Kyle Juszczyk scored a touchdown after the 2-minute warning, the final 2-minute warning, to pretty much seal the deal. And everything before that, yeah, not really exactly inspiring football in the second half for the 49ers. Pretty much a lot of conservative play calling from Shanahan, like a lot of running back play. I mean, at least you got to see some positive things from your running backs in Jeff Wilson and Tyrion Davis-Price. But you also got to see the bad side of Jimmy G. You got to see why Jimmy G was called Jimmy Garbage Fail. You also got to see the offensive line, and from their first half protection on Jimmy G kind of regressed a little bit against the Seahawks' very bad pass rush. I mean, how they almost tried to make their pass rush look good, and they were also flag baiting the defense. There were like one or two instances where Ayuk baited the referees into calling pass interference, and both times he successfully did it. So, I mean, a win is a win, I guess you could say, but God damn. This is very costly. This is a very costly victory for the 49ers. I mean, don't get me wrong. The defense played great today. The defense played really good today. I was impressed by the play by the secondary. Hufanga continues to impress me in the absence of Jimmy Ward. He's stepping up big, breaking up passes, causing turnovers. Nick Bosa had a good game too, netting 2 sacks on Geno Smith, creating pressure on the defensive line on the edge. The offensive line also played a solid in the first half before they didn't really do much in the second half, and forcing Jimmy G to throw very, very quickly, and that could be a concern for the rest of the season, especially when they play much better pass rushes. Maybe next week in Denver could be a problem, and maybe like a couple weeks from now, the Chiefs, the Saints, who have much better pass rushes, and if that Niners offensive line cannot hold, yikes. But again, the running game of Jeff Wilson and Tyron Davis-Price, this was a good start for them in the absence of Elijah Mitchell. And if they can continue to find open running lane, it could be at least something until maybe next season. Some things I would like to see them improve on for week 3 as they go into their Sunday night matchup against Denver in the Mile High. Now that Trey Lance is gone, they better do something. They better at least try to make a competent offense under Jimmy Garoppolo. I bet Kyle Shanahan's going to be like, nope, we're sticking to the running game. We're going to stick with Jeff Wilson and Tyron Davis-Price. Like, no ifs, and buts about it. We're going to make Jimmy G, we're still going to make him pass, but at the less degree that we've done before. Bitch. Can't Kyle Shanahan ever call a balanced play call? Can he ever have a balanced play calling plan? Ever? He's so over reliant on the run. He really is. And then when he's forced to call passing plays, it's always when the spotlights are brightest. It really are. It is. It really is. Something I also want to see is, hopefully now that he's in the starting position again, I would like to see, and especially with a very bad offensive line like he had in 2017, Jimmy Garoppolo scramble outside the pocket more frequently. Can he at least show some signs of that? Because before he tore his ACL in 2018, he was able to make some plays, some solid plays outside the pocket when he did those off-throw outside the pocket plays in those 5 games that he started in 2017 and those 2 games in 2018. And then after he tore his ACL, he just became a complete statue. He was super glued into the ground. We got to see at least more of that. More of those pre-ACL Jimmy from 2017. At least the rest of the way. Because, that offensive line is so bad. It's so bad right now. It's it's going to force him to get out of the pocket more. Otherwise, he's going to get sacked. It's going to force him to get sacked. It's going to force him to lose the ball. Something's going to give here. And then hopefully George Kittle will be healthy enough to play in week 3 against the Broncos because, they're going to need him. Because, without him, this passing attack is kind of lacking without him. So hopefully he's healthy enough to play. So let's now talk about the Trey Lance injury more in depth, because I have a lot to say about this injury, and that I didn't get to say, I can't really say on a long ass Twitter thread or in a separate YouTube video because there's just a lot of things I want to say. So of course, as I mentioned, Trey Lance took a big hit from 2 Seattle players after Kyle Shanahan called a quarterback power run on 2nd and 8. I don't know why you decided to do that on 2nd and 8 when you usually do it on a 3rd down. And it was the third one that Kyle Shanahan had done with over 3 minutes in the first quarter. So, my God, it just baffled me. It just really baffled me that you've already seen 3 QB runs. Like I mentioned this, like in my preview on Friday. No, not Friday, Saturday. Why does he continually insist on making Trey Lance a runner so much? I'm like, sure, he did that so much in college, but you have to see him. You have to see what he's going to look like as a passer, because people are going to figure out that they're going to stuff the run like they've been doing the last 2 games. So, and you don't know what he is as a thrower. You don't. It's like, how are you going to know if you don't call plays that are designed for him to actually throw the ball, dropping back to pass, and not relying so much on the play action? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, Trey Lance goes down. And it initially seemed like he was just slow to get up. He was just taking a moment to catch his breath. But he was down on the ground for a really long time. And then eventually they got him the cart. And keep this in mind, I was at that game. These are why my thoughts. That's why I thought this way. So they got the cart for him. They put the cast on his leg. And yeah, it was a leg injury. And my initial thought was like, oh God, I hope it's not a serious leg injury. I mean, sure, they got the cart for him. I just hope it's not a serious leg injury. Hopefully it's just like a multi-week injury that doesn't take him out for the season. Like, if he takes him out for the season, then fuck. Like, it's going to do some serious dents to the Niners playoff hopes, and maybe long term. So, yeah, it took a while for me to process that it was a real serious injury, and well, it turned out to be a serious injury. He's out for the season. Yeah, he's out for the season with a broken ankle, and yeah, I when I went back here at home to watch some the highlights and saw some pictures on Twitter of the broken ankle. Yeah, it reminded me of the Dak Prescott injury from 2020. Yeah, 2020. I was like, well, fuck. So, yeah, this was what I was worried about with Trey Lance. And I mentioned this in my preview on Saturday. If Kyle Shanahan continued to keep calling these power runs or like making Trey Lance run in general, whether it was by design or like by instinct, and don't get me wrong, Trey Lance usually like runs by instinct. But Kyle Shanahan has been calling these runs by design. And he does it so frequently. That's what makes me so mad. That's what makes me so mad about this injury. He was running Trey Lance into the ground. And that's exactly what happened to him. And it only took 2 weeks for it to happen. It took 2 weeks for Kyle Shanahan to run Trey Lance into the ground. And he's not taking any blame for it. He refuses to take any blame for it. He's just like the Bills do it. Other teams do it. So what's wrong with me doing it? It's like, the problem is Josh Allen doesn't, the Bills and Sean McDermott don't run Josh Allen into the ground. And Josh Allen runs by instinct. And they only call power runs for Josh Allen like a good 15 or 20% of the time. And they had to do it last year because the Bills running backs sucked ass. They sucked ass last year. What was the excuse here? What's the excuse here to make Trey Lance run so much as a starting quarterback? It makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense. So, like, I I really am baffled with this injury for Trey Lance. I feel bad for him. I really feel bad for him. Like, what does this do for his confidence? He's basically missing another year of development, growth, confidence as a long-term starter, a potential not elite quarterback yet, because we don't know what he's going to look like, and a potential franchise quarterback for Trey Lance, because now we don't know. We don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. We don't know how he's going to play when he comes back. And again, I hope and he's going to have a healthy and full recovery, and I know he will, but how is he going to be when he comes back? Because let's remember how Jimmy G was when he came back from that torn ACL in 2018, and look how he is from 2019, that 2019 season to now. Yeah. Explain that one to me. So, with Trey Lance, yeah, like I said, he's basically a quarterback that's been at home for 3 years. 2020, his last year in North Dakota State, was a pandemic one. 2021, sitting behind Jimmy G, only playing 2 games in relief. And then, yeah, that first game that he started in Arizona, he got hurt. He hurt his knee in that one. And then now, 2022, he's out for the season with this ankle injury. Yeah, good job, Shanahan. Good job. And you can say, oh, that's Trey Lance's fault. Trey Lance decided to run. Did he? Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Either he didn't protect. Maybe he didn't protect himself. Sure, he could have, but Kyle Shanahan didn't put him in a situation to protect himself. I'm just saying that if Kyle Shanahan let Trey Lance get an opportunity to throw the damn ball more, let him at least try to develop a sense to throw it to Debo, Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, and even his backup tight end, Ross Dwelly. If he got an opportunity to throw, he would still be here. I mean, that's not to spite Jimmy Garoppolo, because for all the flaws I see in him, he's a good guy. But Trey is the long term. But now you have questions about him. Now you have questions about him, and it's like, what are you doing to him? You just create questions about him, and now it makes you look bad for wasting 3 first-round picks on him. 3. So, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And in a sense, it makes Kyle Shanahan look bad for being extremely defensive about, oh, the other teams do it. So, Kyle Shanahan is the play caller. He's the head coach. But rather than, again, enlisting trust in Trey Lance, developing him, it seems like he has no interest in either of that. It seems like he would rather go with the flow. He would rather just stick with his guns, think about himself, and put his quarterback in a situation as if he was in the freaking Olympic Games as a javelin. As a freaking javelin. And I don't know. Does Kyle Shanahan really care about the long-term future of how the game is played? The long-term outlook of the quarterback position? Does he care about winning a Super Bowl at all? Does he? I mean, sure. He has some good play calls, but at the end of the day, what has that won him? What has those creative play calls won him? I know for sure. I mean, this is not to slight him, but at the end of the day, has it won him the big one yet? Has it won him the Super Bowl yet? I'm just saying. So going forward, I hope Trey Lance, comes back healthier, faster. This helps him prepare for the 2023 season, and hopefully He's given an opportunity to throw the damn ball, whether it's by Kyle Shanahan or some other coach in 2023, if Kyle Shanahan is still the coach by then. And speaking of which, now that Jimmy Garoppolo is back under center, Kyle Shanahan better hope he can coach this team with a bad offensive line, even with a strong defense, a mid quarterback with a even worse offensive line than last year. Because if he can't coach this team to the playoffs, if Jed York had any instance of ruthless aggression in him, he might as well just fire Kyle Shanahan. He should and will fire him. He should. And I say this because this is for the idiocy. It's for the stupidity that he has caused onto the quarterback room and putting Trey Lance in danger. And basically putting him out of the season with the stupidity of his play calling. So, yeah. Trey Lance is out for the season with the broken ankle, and in comes back in Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, don't get me wrong. I guess it's good that they saved them because they would have went like with a pretty much mainly Super Bowl caliber roster with the defense, even with a bad offensive line, good receiving core. Like if it was Brock Purdy at the helm, they would have probably been competing for a high draft pick that they don't even have anyway because they owe it to the Dolphins. So I guess in a sense, it's good that they have Jimmy Garoppolo, but let's see where he can take them with a bad offensive line against better teams in the rest of the way. So let me know your thoughts. However you're listening to this podcast, however you're consuming it. Niners fans, how are you feeling about this injury to Trey Lance, or just in general, if you're for NFL fans, how are you processing through this Trey Lance news, or like however you can, whether you're upset about it or celebrating it? Let me know your takes however you can on social media at Very Cold Lasagna or on YouTube, same way. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning in to episode 117 of this filthy casual show. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. And until next time, peace out.